What's going on, guys? It's Alex and Aaron again over here in Phoenix, Arizona. Always very grateful to be your Phoenix referral partners over here. We wanted to come this week and share what kind of some of the things that we came across this week, and so a little bit of a sneak peek. The two things we're going to talk about, if you couldn't tell from the subject line, is yesterday Gary had a call for operating principles, with KW, and he had some state of the industry, and I wanted to share my insights, my takeaways from that with you guys. I guess you could even call it a little bit of a sneak peek of what you'll get at family reunion, actually. And then Aaron, we want to have a conversation about actually what we would say is like flip your open house strategy. And so, Aaron, anything you want to add before we jump into what I took away from Gary?
Let's just jump in, and I'll tell you what, I'll just kick off with the open house thing. I've been asked by agents many different times. So, look, what time should I run my open house? How long should I do it for? What day of the week is best? And you think to yourself, well, typically, most people have been running these 3 to 4 hour open houses, but I'd suggest that maybe there's a shift out there. Instead of running 3 to 4 open houses, 3 to 4 hour open houses, why not run 3 to 4 open houses, but for an hour, right? So the thinking is that by running it just over an hour period, than say over 3 to 4 hours, you can maximize sort of the stimulus per house, right? The activity, potentially create a situation where you have more FOMO, fear of missing out, because you have more people showing up during that 1 hour period, right? And so if you can get into, say, 3 different houses for an hour a piece, it's a lot more work within that in terms of running house to house, but you're also going to attract more people during that time frame. I would suggest that there's more people looking online for open houses today than there's ever been, right? Yeah, you may pick up people coming by, seeing your sign, but the frequency is going to be increased dramatically if it's just for 1 hour. So we've seen a big shift in that, and a greater opportunity to maximize leads pulling from those, just because it's been condensed and people have to take action during that hour. Your thoughts?
Yeah, we actually did this on a couple of listings, and I know we're talking to people all the way across the country here, but I know everybody here in Arizona empathized for me when I shared that I had gotten a listing in December that backed one of our major roads. And, in my 13 years, when you got that listing that backed a major road, you're like, oh man, like either discount it 10% if you're going to get some traction, quickly, or if you're going to try to price it like the home across the street that doesn't back a major road, And the reason I'm bringing up that property is we especially if you have a listing where, you're trying to get this thing sold quickly. Aaron, you nailed it, right? It's about creating FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. And you do that. I always joke about the movie 300. They kind of filed everybody in between the two mountains, so they could take them on one by one. Well, cutting down your open houses to that hour is basically that same kind of insight of like, hey, if we get everybody to show up at the same time, they're going to see the other people, the other traffic, and they're going to go, man, I can't miss out on this property, right? And so on this house that backed a major road that we did price the same as the home across the street that didn't back the major road, we ended up with multiple offers on that property. And I definitely know that what really helped is we did a 1 hour open house on that particular property. We ended up with 20 people that showed up for it. Yes, new listing helped dramatically, yet guess what, all those 20 people saw each other in that 1 hour period. So
yeah, like it or not, there's a company out here where 72 sold, which I know is has it gone national?
Yeah,
it was national. Yeah, maybe not so popular anymore, but at the end of the day, they really did prove out that theory by running just 1 hour blocks for showings, right? So they just use that same concept, and that same concept applies when it comes to actually open houses. And you even experienced it with one of those listings you take.
And we even had some other agents at our market centers. They heard me kind of talk about this, and they've gone and tried it, and they go, I mean, you know what? I was getting 3-4 people in a 3-4 hour period, and they haven't taken me up on doing multiple homes in one day just yet, but they did cut them down to an hour, and they're like, I'm still getting 3-4 people, right? So just multiply that. Where if you and really the biggest thing. We know that you can get a dud address. You're like, man, this just wasn't the home. People don't show up. So like, what's that world look like if you now do 3-4 homes in one day for an hour each? where maybe this was not the right open house. People didn't care about that address, but they might care about one of the other twos, right? So it's just increasing your chances for a home run.
And if you're actually sitting down and you're doing colleagues listings for those open houses, just make sure that they're putting them on the internet.
Yeah. So pivoting on that. So as I mentioned, an operating principal call yesterday, we got a little bit of Gary, Jason, and Mark. And, I wanted to share Gary, as he loves to do. He definitely had a state of the industry where he talked about, where things were and where they're headed. And I think, we all get to kind of reflect on 2024. Aaron and I were actually joking that I think we sent a video to all of you guys 2 years ago. That was like, end of 2022, because everything kind of hit a wall in May of 2022, quarter two, that it was the second worst year in real estate. And then we went ahead and had the next two worst years right after that, right? And fast forward to today, where 2024 ended up being the worst year in sales that we've seen in over 30 years, at 4 million. And so I'm going to share about what Gary thinks what 2025 is going to look, because our last video we shared that CoreLogic had said about a 9% increase, and Gary didn't mention CoreLogic, but he did get to speak about whether he thought a 9 to 10% increase was actually going to happen. So first thing I want to share with you, so a couple things, unless you've been kind of nerding out there and already know these things, I thought it was really cool, and it just kind of made it really digestible for me. So get ready to kind of jot this down. Number one, the first thing that came up was unemployment. So, and Gary was doing this so that we understood the state of our economy, right? As we head into, a new president here in January, new people in office, all that stuff. Okay, where are we at today as we head into 2025? And number one, unemployment. So the goal of our economy is to have our unemployment to be at 6% or lower. We finished 2024 at 4.5%. And right now, as things stand, 2025 is projected to be at 4.5% as well. So far, 2025 is projected to kind of share with all these stats, what we experienced, except for home sales. And so the second thing was GDP, right? Are we spending money, as a country and as a society? And the goal, right, where we feel good as an economy, we go, hey, things are completely fine, is if that number is at 2% GDP, and 2024 finished at 2.5% GDP, with 2025 projected to also stay hovering at that 2.5 range. So what is that saying? We feel not the best because sales were down in real estate. We don't feel the best because interest rates were high, right? I think we just hit a 6-month record high here this last week, right? So we're just, we're like, isn't it supposed to get better interest rate wise? And yet we were out spending money, buying those holiday gifts, buying cars and so forth, because we outperformed what we would consider healthy at 2%. We even did more than that, 2.5%. So the third number was inflation. And inflation, we have a goal of keeping that right around 2%. And we know that we saw tremendous inflation, during that COVID era. And it's exactly why rates had to do what they had to do to control inflation. And it has, and inflation finished in 2024 at 3.2%, which is dramatically better than where it was, and really close to that gold number. And so all in all, you go, we really didn't like interest rates, yet the economy is doing extremely well by those markers. And so then that kind of brings me to affordability. Trust me that we wake up every day and we're like, man, are we really telling our clients to sign up for $3,000-$4,000 a month based on the volume that our homes are at nowadays and these interest rates? And Gary brought up a really interesting point. We were extremely spoiled because for 20 years in a row, not the last 20 years, but for 20 years in a row, really started in that kind of, pre-08 era, principal and interest represented only about 20% of our income. And if you look at what 2024 ended at with these elevated interest rates and volumes of home, Principal and interest represented about 35% of our income. Now, that's a jump. That's why people are complaining. That's why we feel it. Yet, those of you that have been in the business for a while, I think we all know that we've been with a lender and we're like, hey, did they qualify? Could you get them pre-qualified, right? And they're like, hey, I got to get this payment to like 30, 33, 35%, of their income and no more than 50% of all their debt, right? And so like 2024 kind of finished where, yeah, we do feel a little bit more a little bit more of a chokehold around our income when it comes to qualifying for a home. Yet Gary was like, listen, I can't say that's bad, right? Yes, it's a little bit, it is more of our income, yet it's right in line that your housing would be a third of your income. So I thought that was interesting. And then home sales, just to kind of piggyback off last week's video, Gary was like, yep, for sure, what I will say is that 2024 was definitely most likely our rock bottom year, right? So we are going to see an increase from here. He felt a little hesitant to maybe agree with, an increase of like 9 to 10% up, but the projected is at 4.5 million. He goes, there will be growth. He goes, just feels like a little bit of a high number, but is it possible? Yes. So I thought that was also interesting as well. But Aaron, did you have...
Yeah, no, nothing else to add on that one. I just think that it's really interesting when you look at, and not to go into the politics side of things, but I think there's a lot of disruption to what we hear day to day. And we all know that the prices have increased dramatically across the board out there. But when you hear numbers like this, that's really what's surprising. It actually, economically, looks fairly stable, headed in the right direction. The only challenge being that, does it really make sense that they're going to start dropping interest rates when actually inflation still is above the key marker?
And that's, because the talk is drop rates. I think if rates do drop, even say to a 6%, we're going to see a real boom of people that have been like pent up. We saw last week, we shared some articles, where homeowners are like, I'm ready to make a move regardless. I'm ready to, get out of the home that I kind of had to buy here because I had to offer over asking like a lot, and I wanted to share one last thing because I think at the end of the day, I know this might seem obvious, especially, in the KW world, that things are our mindset, right? I think as a society, our mindset is that we got used to low interest rates. So that's why we don't like these. You know what else we also got used to? And I thought this was interesting from yesterday's call, that during the pandemic, all we learned how to do was save money. We had ended up saving over $2 trillion at the peak in 2021. And right now in 2024, we are actually, so that was a positive number, a positive $2 million we had saved as a country. And as of 2024, we're actually like negative 200,000 in savings. Right. So what we got used to was saving our money and not spending it. Right. And that's when we saw fluctuations of things. So it's very interesting. I bring up that point to say that like we got used to low interest rates, saving our money, feeling rich, feeling wealthy. Right. And now we're kind of feeling like the stress of the higher interest rates. We've been spending our money. We don't have the savings accounts that we did just 3 years ago. So want to share all that because, as you're at your listing appointments, talking to those buyers, they're stressed out, hopefully these little insights you can, kind of plug those into your scripts, into your conversations with your clients to help them kind of understand. And I know other agents have been saying to us, what does 2025 look like? What's going to happen? Are rates going to go down? And, we don't have the crystal ball. None of us do. We can just hope. There's just some markers, to Aaron's point, to wrap up the video, that like this is, it's hard to tell when these markers are kind of okay right now. So we wait and we see. I think we'll learn a lot in the next 4 weeks. I think in 4 weeks from now, 4 more videos from us, we might have a little bit of a better insight. So awesome, guys. Well, Aaron, unless you have anything else, really appreciate you guys. Thank you as always, those of you that watch. Thank you for those that have subscribed on the YouTube channel. And as always, if you have somebody, it could be somebody in the cubicle next to you, but a friend, a family member, a fellow real estate agent, I should say, that you would love to share this video with, feel free to hit the forward button on the email, and we appreciate that. So
thanks, guys.